Guys, something is happening in Kerch just right now. Locals report about at least 20 of the kabooms in the area. The Kerch bridge is closed and I'm just starting recording this video, so yet we are out of the detailed information of what is happening out there. Well, local chats publish this kind of the video. Mostly we have the audio information out there. The video picture is just a random filmed from the window. So it could be Russian air defense, or maybe some of the anti-drone boat tools which they continue to use. If you take Astra, a Russian opposition source, they rely on the local channels, and locals report about huge kabooms. They're all scared, very scared, very scared. It's very loud out there. Is the breach okay? Because I have the doubts about it. Well, I also have the doubts about it. And here we have one more video of the Russian air defense system in operation. So for sure, those kabooms could be because of the launching of those missiles, flying probably in attempt to target ATACMS missiles. So right now I'm waiting for more information, which is coming almost every minute about the case. So more to the end of the video, I'm gonna update you once again about the situation with the Kerch breach or Kerch whatever. Well, still, I don't think that Ukraine targeted the Kerch breach this night. No, I think that Ukraine waits for F-16s with their air-to-ground missiles, which could add more firepower to target this infrastructure supply line. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go to the other news for now. We have absolutely crazy awesome news from our partner and ally Sweden. They're giving to Ukraine this Saab ISC-890, which is the radio surveillance airplane. Yes, they're not going to perform the missions for Ukraine, they're just giving this airplane to Ukrainian army. So who will be the pilots? Well, those could be Ukrainians as well, because basically this is Saab A340. I mean the original aircraft type, which was significantly modified into this flying radar station. The pilot training for this bird is very simple. If you have the airline transport pilot license and flying experience, it will not take more than a couple of months for intensive training. Well, excluding the ground course, so totally it could be around 3 months together with everything. But I do not exclude that Swedish pilots will fly this thing at first. So why is it so important? Because Ukraine might use that particular airplane type to make a surveillance over Ukrainian territory and especially over the occupied territories. For now, surveillance is done mostly from the regions of Poland and also in Romania and near Crimea in neutral waters. So the range sometimes is not enough to cover everything of what is happening, for example, on the Russian territory of Kursk and Belgorod, where Russia prepares their forces for the new strike on Sumy region. We're going to speak about it also in this video, but with the new radar, Ukraine might reach also this part. And also might plan the future strikes on the Russian territory and the Russian airfields, Russian bases, obtaining the current information about what is happening on the ground and in the air. Also, that surveillance airplane will help Ukraine to identify the enemy missiles and the drones more precisely, so Ukraine might use the air defense systems more effectively. So for all of that, this is the absolutely outstanding offer from our allies. So thank you, Sweden, so much for supporting Ukraine with the crucially needed devices. I told you that the pilot training wouldn't take lots of the time for every kind of the airline pilot or the transport pilot in military. However, to operate this thing, I mean to be a radar operator, it might take the time, so I believe that after all, Swedish crew will be involved into it. My friends, by the way, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may join my Patreon page. It is available with my personal link in the video description just below. Well, only if you want to support me. My friends, thank you so much for it. About the Swedish fighter jets JAS 39 Gripen, well, the talks are still ongoing, whether Ukraine obtains those in the future perspective or not. They are not closed, they are not over. We have the confirmation about it from the ambassador of Sweden in Ukraine, that they're talking about those airplane types. Yeah, for now the deal is postponed because of the F-16s, but for the future perspective, Ukraine will have those as well. I'm sure about it. Well, not the next year, but in a couple of years, we're gonna see. Also, Sweden is going to deliver some of the armored vehicles and the other military support for Ukraine. It's gonna be a long-term support worth around 13 billion euros. It's quite a lot for Sweden. Well, everything of that will not be spent this year, but it will take many years to support Ukraine with military help, which I think tells a lot about how far this war might continue. Could be several years, yes indeed. But what kind of the airplanes does Ukraine use for the surveillance missions? Well, usually those are the tactical bombers, Sukhoi 24, with the extra radar which you may see on the bottom of the airplane. This unit is called CRC-14 Kage, but obviously Swedish sub would be more effective compared to this old tool. Meanwhile, Russia tries to protect their airplanes, building those hangars right on the apron. For example, this is the military airfield of the Russian Air Force in Volgograd city. But Russia needs time to build those. For example, they started to build those hangars back in 2022, so already more than 2 years they're still under construction. They're not yet in use. The airplanes are still parked near to those hangars. It means that Ukraine still has the opportunity to target the Russian aviation units. And it is the first airfield where Russia introduced that protection for their airplanes, and there are no signs that they are building new hangars on the rest of the airfields, so they still need a couple of more years to finish this project elsewhere. Well, this one in particular, they're gonna finish fast. So this is the picture before, and this is after. You can see several of the hangars just on the apron, but the rest of the airplanes are standing on the other apron, not in the hangars, so the construction work is still ongoing. About the permission for Ukraine to use the Western-made weaponry to target the Russian Federation territory, Russian bases mainly, well, we have this map, it's in Cyrillic, sorry, it's in Ukrainian, but nevertheless you can see the colors. I think that you know some of the geography. Well, in green we see the countries which has already agreed that Ukraine might use their weaponry to target the Russian bases on the Russian territory, but the United States, you see, it's in yellow, it's under the question. Now, negotiations from different sides and forces are ongoing. Biden still hesitates to make a final step towards that permission for Ukraine, but I'm sure that it will be positive. The other countries shown in amber here, like Germany, Belgium and Italy, well, they are more leaning not to give the permission for Ukraine to use the weaponry. However, after all, I also think that they will agree on that move. Well, Italy and Belgium, it's not very important. However, Germany and the United States of America, they should support that move. Otherwise, Ukraine will be out of the tools to strike Russian army over there, because those two of the countries provide long-range weaponry. America, the United States of America, provided ATACMS missiles and also different tools, long-range weaponry which also could be used by Ukraine. So for now, just Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles could be used against the Russian bases. And France, together with the UK, are doing a great job convincing other players, other allies, to give their permission for Ukraine. So hopefully it will be resolved very soon. I even expected this week that United States will give that permission, because the question was lifted in the White House. There were some of the discussions. However, we don't see the final decision yet. Alright, some of the kabooms were reported in occupied city of Donetsk today, as it was said there was the Russian military base in one of the buildings and it was kaputted with this huge kaboom. We have this information from locals. They report that it was a Russian base out there, with some of the Russian officers constantly working in the place. The Deep State military map updates the situation near Chasiv Yar. They say that the Russian convoy was ambushed on the way to the city. Russians actually entered the city. The fighting is ongoing there, but here is the area where they use just infantry forces. Well, today they tried to move their heavy armored vehicles plus tanks out there, and all of that stuff was kaboomed with the help of the FPV drone and artillery. If you look at the screen, the small screen out here, you might see lots of the holes in the fields. It shows the intensity of the fights out there. It's like a First World War or the second one. So Russia used the combination of the T-72 tanks together with the new T-90. All of that stuff together with T-90 was ambushed on the way, so we have absolutely great news for Ukraine. Our defenders are still able to repel the Russian mid-waves. However, Russia still moved at a couple of the points of the front lines. Let me show you the update. So first of all, Nitailova village, it's over here. Let's check out the update. Yesterday, today, they're moving out from Tenenke. And from Vodina, so soon they're gonna occupy this part. President Macron promised to deliver his plan about sending the instructors, French instructors, to Ukraine. Well, from some of the analytics, we heard that France is going to put their foreign legion to Ukraine. I have doubts about it, personally, my friends. Also, I heard this information from the Russian mass media sources that France is going to send thousands of the troops to Ukraine, saying that all of those are instructors, but actually they will be in active combat with the Russian forces. Well, I do not exclude that either, but I don't think that France is definitely going to send the combat fighting forces at this particular stage. Yes, they'll send instructors for Ukrainian military and maybe some of the army personnel to maintain and operate with the Western-made weaponry. For example, Caesar artillery systems. Why not? Because it's the French one.
This training is generally aimed at enhancing the skills and capabilities of the Ukrainian forces, particularly in using advanced Western military equipment. Sending instructors to combat zones, however, is a sensitive and complex issue.
So yeah, ChatGPT agrees with me on this matter. I think that guys from France will operate the Western-made weaponry in a way more effectively. Plus, I think they will be a little separated from Ukrainian command, which sometimes, yes, I must say about it, is in lack of competence. Well, I think that after all, they'll coordinate their efforts with the Ukrainian military command, but they will stay separated and independent. But what might happen if Russia strikes French forces deployed in Ukraine? Well, in that case, France might escalate even further, sending more of the weaponry or more of the forces, in that case including their foreign legion forces, who are one of the best soldiers out there, and they really have the military experience, mostly in Africa. So why France in general supporting Ukraine? Well, basically they follow their own policy, because they're now in conflict with the Russian private military armies in Africa. France lost its influence out there, and now they want Russia to lose their influence in Ukraine, to weight everything equally. You may call it a revenge, but France wants Russia to concentrate their main effort not on Africa but on Ukraine, fighting with a more capable army. I think it's like that, but again, I could be wrong. It's just my own ideas here. Right, guys, we have the latest update about the situation in Kerch. So Russian official sources say that 2 of the ships, they say Ferries, were damaged because of the rocket debris that were down in the skies by the Russian air defense. It's their usual phrase. What happened in real, that 2 of the ferries were hit by missiles. Those ferries are circling around Russian territory and occupied Crimea, also used by the Russian army for their logistics. The information about it was reported by the advisor to the head of Crimea, Kuruchkov, something like that. The surname in English is quite hard to read. So what he writes, while repelling an enemy attack on the transport infrastructure of the city of Kerch, 2 ferries, a car and a railway were damaged from the debris of downed missiles. There are no casualties among sailors and civilians. While the damage is asserted, the ferry service will resume, but when it happens, no one knows. Please remain calm and trust only verified information, Kuruchkov wrote on the reference to Nikolai Lukashenko, who is dead. I'm out of clue, but here we see the first damage for the Russian infrastructure across the Kerch Channel. It's not yet a Kerch bridge, but very close to it. This is how those ferries look like. They also used to transport the civilian cars and other vehicles, but also used for military purposes as well. And according to the public information in internet, Russia has 2 of those ferries, and both of them were hit today. So if something happens now with the Kerch Bridge connection, it means that Russia wouldn't have the backup transportation for their military without those ferries. Guys, just for you to know, firstly, I update this information on my Telegram, so my Telegram viewers already know what happened out there. But for YouTube, I firstly need to film the video, then edit it, make a thumbnail, and later on you'll see the news. So I highly recommend you to subscribe for my Telegram channel, where I post all the latest information about what is happening in Ukraine. You may find the Telegram in the video description just below. Turkey is building a corvette ship for Ukraine, and today it went for its first tests. You may see here some sort of the tools which this corvette class ship has. It has also some sort of the anti-ship missiles installed out there, plus torpedoes, cannon in the front, and surveillance systems, so it should be very good ship for Ukrainian Navy. Ukraine totally ordered for now 2 of those. Russians start to use lots of the motorcycles in their assault missions. I watched already tons of the videos of how those motorcycles are being kaboomed on the front lines in their attempt to reach Ukrainian positions, and here the Russian soldiers has obtained a new China-made motorcycle. Do you think that this guy really smart enough to use this bike? He even holds the Russian flag upside down. And definitely this photo shows what might happen to him in the nearby future. Alright, so here we have the vehicle losses analytics for both of the sides between 10th and 18th of May. So since Russia started the intervention into the Kharkiv Oblast, and 1 week after it. So we have this kind of the picture. So Russia totally lost 494 of the vehicles, Ukraine 242. The losses are 2-1. And definitely you can see that, for example, for this day, the blue area is higher than usual. If we zoom into any kind of the day, you'll see lots of the Lancet, and the Lancet strikes. Russia has modernized the latest type of that drone, and they use those actively against Ukrainian artillery mostly. So Ukraine actually now loses more artillery systems compared to Russia. So if we take statistics for the tanks, for example, for this period of time, Russia lost 99 of the tanks, Ukraine just 18. So the losses here are 1-5 in favor of Ukraine. For BMP, BMD and other armored vehicles, the picture is more or less the same. But if we take artillery, it's just crazy. Ukraine loses 2 times more of the artillery systems compared to Russia. And Russia actually has more artillery systems compared to Ukraine in general. It is absolutely not a good picture, and it cannot continue like that for a long time. So Ukraine needs to do something with those Lancet drones. They're really pain in the ass for Ukrainian army. Well, they were before, but now they're more capable. Also here, Russia has launched those Lancets from the Russian territory, from their bases and from their places. So the best thing is actually to target those with some sort of the cluster munition shells or cluster munition missiles. But so far we don't have the permission for ATACMS. Well, even with ATACMS, it could be really hard to target those Lancets because it's very hard to detect those. And actually, I don't know what Ukraine might use in this case to get rid of this threat, which potentially might ruin in a long-term perspective Ukrainian artillery. Because for that week, the losses were tremendous for Ukraine. If we check out the Russian statistics, Ukraine usually uses FPV drones. Ukraine here overwhelmingly better compared to the Russian army. Russia has FPV drones, but Ukraine uses those more massively and more precisely. But Lancets really bad for Ukrainian army. This night, Russia again launched a strike on Ukraine. I'm monitoring the situation. Now we have the air sirens in many of the areas of Ukraine. Russia continued to use their strategic bombers, hitting Ukrainian infrastructure, mostly with cruise missiles. Well, hopefully Ukrainian defense will be capable this night. Guys, for a moment, let's review the front lines again. The Kharkiv Oblast. Well, today there were no any changes if we go to the timeline. So for sure, Russian forces were stopped here by Ukrainian defenders. Absolutely great job done by Ukraine. In a very hard conditions, then enemy still prevails. Ukraine is really capable. However, we have some of the warning signals coming from this area, Zolochiv. It's the biggest settlement in the place, and there is some information that Russia also might strike towards this direction. So I need to use the other color. So Russia might strike towards this direction because they're not really successful over here in Liptsi, so they might move the part of the forces over here. and Ukraine has already started the evacuation of the bordering villages. The Institute for the Study of War also says that it is probably the next hot spot. So Russia tries to escalate in many of the areas. They are searching for some sort of the weak spot in Ukrainian defense. They really want to break through and reach Kharkiv, maybe from Zolochiv or maybe from other place. They also concentrate their forces not far away from the border with Sumy region. And we also have the information that they're sending their forces in this place near Chernihiv Oblast as well. So Russia probably will try to create many of those hot spots for Ukraine to disperse its defenders all around the front lines. For Ukraine, it is obviously very difficult situation because the resource for Ukraine is quite limited. And after all of that, Russia might strike with their main offensive, for example, in Donbass, taking more ground. Well, anyways, we'll see how it goes in the coming weeks. But I'm sure that Russian plans will not work out for them. My friends, now don't forget to press your huge like for this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.